what's David got to do? He now has become king. What's the first thing he's got to do? He's got to win a victory. The story of David and Goliath is David's first victory. It's right. He gets anointed in chapter 16. And what is chapter 17? David and Goliath. So it follows. David is anointed king, and then boom, David and Goliath in chapter 17 there. And I just want to bring up this map. First of all, Jerusalem and Bethlehem. David's going to be from Bethlehem. Where is Goliath from? Goliath of Gath. The Philistines are going to go from here, Gath, and then they're going to basically go up here. Goliath and his boys will go up here, past Azekah, up into the valley of Elah. This valley of Elah is there till this day. The Jews, are the Jews on the plains, or do the Jews hide in the mountains? The Jews hide in the mountains because the Philistines have chariots and stuff. So the Philistines will come up in the valley. The Jews will hide in the mountains. And this is then Goliath is going to go out and taunt the Jews. The Jews are on the mountains. Goliath is going to come out and challenge them to come down and fight them. David is going to go out. He's going to have a slingshot. He's going to pick up 5 stones. Why did David pick up 5 stones rather than just one? Yeah. Okay, now she said it with a straight face, but it's a joke I heard. David picked up 5 stones because he heard that Goliath had 4 brothers. Okay, that's a joke. Okay, that was, you should smile with that. Actually, she's better at telling jokes than I am. Okay, but anyways, that was a joke. Okay, he picks up 5 stones. Okay, we don't know why he picked up 5 stones. By the way, if you ever go to Israel with Dr. Elaine Phillips and her husband Perry Phillips, you'll go to the valley of Elah and you'll actually cross the stream and you can pick up 5 stones. And the stream, by the way, when I say a stream, how wide's the stream? The stream's about this wide, you know what I'm saying? You just walk right across it. So David goes out with this, well, let's get over to David's victory here. David goes out, and David comes down. He's supposed to bring some food to his brothers. His brothers are in battle, and David's coming down with the food. And so from home, to feed them and stuff. Do you ever send troops food to eat? Have you ever eaten K-rations and stuff? Do the troops need food? Yeah, sometime when we're not on and things, they ask me about my son for food and what they did for food and things. But anyways, David asked the men standing near, what will be done for the man that kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? This is about a 16-year-old kid speaking. Goliath, big, Shaq kind of character, okay? And David, 16-year-old little kid. And they repeated to him, and basically when Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he was burned with anger at him and asked, why have you come down here? And with whom, David, did you leave the few sheep? Why don't you go back to the sheep, David, and take care of them in the desert? And then Eliab, his older brother, says this. Check this out. The older brother says this. I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You've come only down to watch the battle. Do little kids like to watch the battle? Yeah. Do the older kids got to fight the battle? They're not that on this because they're scared to death. They may die. The little kid comes down to watch the battle. Notice he accuses David of being conceited. Is David conceited? Are his words very courageous and very much in your face? Is he conceited? I want to suggest no. His older brother doesn't know David's heart. David's confidence is in the Lord. David's confidence is in the Lord, not himself. So David comes off, and his brother accuses him of being conceited, but David is actually dependent on the Lord. On the other hand, did Saul initially look humble? But was Saul really humble? No, Saul was insecure. And so what I'm saying is it possible for somebody to look like they're humble but not be humble? Is it possible for somebody to look like they're proud and not be proud? In other words, can we judge another individual's heart? Can we judge a person's heart? They may come off as really arrogant, but they may not be. And David here comes off with these really arrogant statements and things. And then do you remember what happened? He goes up to Saul, and Saul says, hey, put on my armor and stuff. David puts on the armor, but he's a little kid, and it's like, I can't fight in this flak jacket. It weighs 60 pounds, man. I'm not going to do that. So he takes it off, and he says to Saul, he says, hey, I killed the lion, I killed the bear when they attacked my sheep, and I'll kill this Philistine too. By the way, killing a lion and a bear, is that a pretty big deal? Without my 30-06 or something like that, is that a pretty big deal? That's a big deal, David. And so David goes out. Now he goes out. How does he go out? He goes out with no armor, with the slingshot, stones against this giant. And actually the giant in chapter 17, verse 41, here's how Goliath interacts with David. Meanwhile, the Philistine with the shield bearer, so he's got this guy carrying his shield in front of him, kept coming closer to David. He looked David over and saw that he was only a boy. So here you got this big, huge guy coming out, and they send a boy out to fight him. And so when you're a warrior, do you want a worthy opponent? When you're a warrior, do you want a worthy opponent? Yes. My son's talked to me often about this. And when he was in Iraq, one of the reasons why I hated being in Iraq was he said there were no worthy opponents. The people were wimpish. There was nothing to them. He said there weren't. By the way, when he got to Afghanistan, did they have worthy warriors there? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. In Afghanistan, they have warriors there. And anyway, so he looks David over and he says, you send a kid out to fight me? And so the boy, he was only a boy, ruddy and handsome, and he despised him. And he said to David, am I a dog that you come out? Little kid, sticks and stones, you're going to break my bones, And this giant is just, floored. And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. He says, come here, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. Big guy speaking to David. By the way, is this a great story to tell the kids? Why does this story work really well with kids? Are kids little people with giants all around them? No, I'm serious. Did you ever see that movie Big? But anyways, it's kind of like it is, You're little kids and the big bodies all around them and stuff. So these little kids, this is a great story for kids and stuff. David's going to respond to the Philistine. Here's David now. This big guy's just bellowing out all this stuff. David said to the Philistine, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. Okay, those are pretty strong words. And today I will give the carcass of the Philistines. It goes on, the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. Okay? And the guy moves closer, and what does David do? He takes out his slingshot, bam, hits him in the forehead, takes him down. Now, whether the stone in the forehead killed him or not, it took him down. David then does what? He goes up. By the way, did the Jews have swords? Do you realize that the Philistines had a monopoly on the iron producing? And so basically the weapons were made by the Philistines. The Jews had a lack of metallurgical stuff. So David takes Goliath's own sword and lops off his head. Okay? Now, what's the deal? I know this is going to sound really weird, but this is the honest truth. Archaeologists have found a large head, just the head, with a stone that cracked the skull and split the skull. No, this is the honest truth. I'm not making this up. A stone, dead center in the guy's forehead, and it cracked his skull. And they've actually found archaeological stuff going way, way back. I'm not sure what the exact date of this is, but they have found just a head, a very large head with a stone, bam, right dead center in the head. Now, you're saying, Hildebrandt, you aren't saying that's Goliath that they found. No. Okay, I'm backing off from that. But I'm saying, isn't it interesting that they found a guy with a cracked skull, busted his skull open with the stone in this, and they've actually found one archaeologically. I'm not saying that's Goliath, okay? Would that be really dumb to say that's Goliath? That would be really dumb to say that's Goliath. Now, all I'm saying is that you can see people with slingshots did take down big people with stones cracking their skulls. And so, anyways, I don't know, it's just fascinating. To me, to be honest with you, it's absolutely fascinating they found somebody like that. I'm not saying it's Goliath, okay? So you got to back off. Yeah, Hannah?
Did they figure out how tall that?
Yeah, you got to be careful. Yeah, there's some debate on the figures. The figures in Scripture here is like 9 feet tall or something like that. And actually that's way, even Shaq isn't that tall. What most people think is what it's measuring him with his head, his headpiece and the whole, like the military stuff, which might have gone up. higher than that. When I say the guy is big, but I'm not saying it's probably the headdress was what they were measuring to and stuff. I don't know. That's the question that's been raised, but I always think the number's there. So, good. So David's righteous anger, the siblings' jealousy, accusing him of wrong motives. He's just going on to see the battle and things like that. And then we just read the story of the giant coming out, and David taking the giant down with the slingshot and taking off his head. By the way, is that sword going to be special for David? Is that David's sword? David killed Goliath, and later on, David's going to come back to that sword. We're going to see that happen just shortly here. So, what happens? David wins the battle. The women always cause trouble, okay? And so they go out singing a victory song. And the victory song that they sing in chapter 18, verse 7, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his what? Tens of thousands. And Saul hears that, and what happens with Saul? Saul kills his thousands, and David his tens of thousands, and Saul gets jealous of David. Does jealousy lead to murder? Does jealousy lead to murder? I think I've told you guys, I taught in a maximum security prison for 10 years. There's a guy named Brian in there who basically was about 19 years old, and his girl ran off with somebody else. What did the young man do? The young man was jealous of this other guy. He got a gun and blew him away. Killed him. Spent 25 years in prison. He's out now and stuff. He's a wonderful believing person, really a dynamite person and stuff. But does jealousy cause people to kill people? And so Saul gets jealous of David because Saul has killed his thousands, David his tens of thousands. Saul gets jealous, and this song drives Saul bananas, and he goes after David.